Welcome to the Tales to Inspire podcast. Before we get started on this episode, I would like to invite you to our community so that you can hear more stories to inspire change within your life and positive change within the systems in which we live. All I want you to do is to click on the subscribe button. Your comments mean the world to us with anything that's resonated with you, and I absolutely love your support. I can't wait to go on this journey alongside you. Thank you so much for subscribing. Let's get into today's episode. Today, our bite-sized episode is with Meg Holloway. Meg, why is movement so important for well-being?
Okay, so I can literally talk all day about this, but I'm going to try and keep this really concise. So, if you think about like thousands and thousands of years ago, think about how long we've been on this earth, right? As Homo sapiens, right? All we did is move. We moved in our tribes, we moved to find food, we moved to find sleep, we moved to find shelter, like whatever it is, we're always moving. Sometimes we were running for our lives, but we were always moving. I believe we're not supposed to be sedentary, and there is plenty of research to say that the minute you start having a sedentary lifestyle, that is when we get sad, we get anxious, we get bored. So movement is basically part of like our DNA, if you like. So if you ask my mum, she'd say I danced before I could walk. I've always dancing is my first love above anything else. I've always danced as a kid. And I try and make this like the shortest, longest of the longest story ever. But when I danced all the way through school, like did all the qualifications. And when you were a kid, you know, you used to say with your friends, like, oh, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. Like, I always felt quite smug because I was like, I'm going to be a dancer. First, I'm going to be a dancer, and then I'm going to be a dance teacher. Because to me, movement was like the best way I could express myself. I was always a bit of a chatterbox, and I enjoyed writing and all that kind of thing. But dance to me, moving, was how I expressed myself. And then when I was about 17, 18, I had a really bad back injury, which was because I didn't warm up or cool down, but that's another story for another day. Anyways, had this back injury and developed this fear of dancing again, I guess, this like fear of movement, because I was so scared of causing this pain again. I literally wouldn't wish it on, back injuries are awful, I wouldn't wish it on anyone. Then kind of fast forward 10 years, so for most of my 20s, I definitely didn't dance, but I didn't do a lot of fitness either. I didn't like try to go running or join like sports teams or anything like that. So other than maybe walking and hiking and skiing, I didn't do any other kind of movement because I was so scared I was going to cause this injury again. And then when towards the back end of my 20s, I went through quite a big breakup, and I found myself like, oh my God, I'm so bored. And I'm also super boring. I had no hobbies, nothing. And I remember seeing on social media this like advert for this like dance fitness class. And I remember texting my mum and being like, oh, do I do it? Do I not? And she was like, just go. It's 60 minutes is not gonna like hurt you. And I went along and literally like I fell in love with it. Now I was at the back of the class. I wasn't in time. Everybody else seemed to know the moves, but me, like I was just rubbish. But I came out and it was like this like euphoria, and I just couldn't stop smiling. And I realised, I was like, oh my God, I lost the love of dancing, like the love of movement. Anyways, that was like 4 years ago now, and I've got a part of one of my businesses is being a dance instructor, because when I say I threw myself into it, I threw myself into it and was like, right, that's it now. I have to just, you know, maybe like catch up on like this like decade of movement, of not moving, if you like. And anybody who would come to my classes, I would always say like, look, I don't care if you can keep in time, I don't care if you know the moves, I just want you to move. And for some people, usually women, it was about, they were doing it because it was an exercise class because it was losing weight. For others, it was like, oh, I'd like to meet like, I don't know, other young mums or whatever. But for all of them, it was just moving their body. And I don't know the full science behind it, but it just time and time again is showing that it does help us lead like happier, healthier lives. And I've since, like, I still dance now, still practice now, and have invited like a whole host of other ways to move into my life. But the only thing I always try and remember is like I have that evidence, and it wasn't a great decade either. My 20s were not the most fun, and I was sad and probably quite depressed at times and anxious and all those kind of things. And I look back on that now and think, maybe if you just moved, you know, what could have been. So yeah, that's kind of, you can look at all the research and science, but I like to think that I've got like the living proof that of why it's so important, or why it's so important to me.